Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Prajajanaranjana Jaya Prajajanaranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jayo Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki, Jai Shri Shri Radha Neela Madhav ki, Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki, Jai Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki. So we will read today from the 6th canto, 2nd chapter, and we are looking today at, let me see, I think I should do 22. I'll do 22 then. 6 to 22. Dvija Pashad Vinirmukto Dvija pashad vinirmukto Gata bi prakritim gataha Gata bhi prakritim gataha Vavande shirasa Vishnu Vavande shirasa Vishnu Kinkaran darshanotsabaha Kinkaran darshanotsabaha Dvija pashad vinirmukto Gata bhi prakritim gataha Vavande shirasa Vishnu Kinkaran darshanotsabaha Dvija pashad vinirmukto Gata bhi prakritim gataha Vavande shirasa Vishnu Kinkaran darshanotsabaha. Prabhus. Dvija pashad vinirmukto Matajis. Prasanna Prabhu, you want to read the translation and purport, Prabhu? I'm looking at 6 to 22, Prabhu. Swayam Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajat He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Gopesha Gop Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanta Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Tvishe Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki. So thank you all for joining us for the morning session reading from this wonderful chapter of Ajamil delivered by the Vishnu Dutas. So the chapter's title is very interesting. Ajamil is not delivered by Krishna. Ajamil is actually delivered by Vishnu Dutas. Very often in Srimad Bhagavatam and in Shastras, we have the understanding that only Krishna can deliver us from this material existence.
काफी बार हमें ऐसी एक समझन होती है कि हम ऐसा मानते होते हैं कि केवल कृष्ण ही हमारा उद्धार कर सकते हैं होते हैं संसार में।
But actually, throughout Bhagavatam, especially in this chapter, you find that the Vishnu Dutas, the devotees of the Lord, they were the ones who actually delivered Ajamil.
किंतु इस अध्याय के माध्यम से हमें ये पता चलता है कि भगवान के जो विष्णु दूत हैं, उन्होंने ही अजामिल का उद्धार किया।
Even though after saving Ajamil from the Yamadutas, Ajamil continued to live.
और अजामिल को यमदूतों के पास से बचा लेने के बाद ही अजामिल जिंदा रहा।
But the fact is, Ajamil's consciousness completely changed on account of the Vishnu Dutas.
परंतु सत्य ये है कि विष्णु दूतों के सत्य के कारण अजामिल का पूरा प्रभाव और विचारधारा बदल गया।
Because if the Vishnu Dutas did not come and stop the Yamadutas with expert arguments from Srimad Bhagavatam, then Ajamil would have actually been completely, he would never have been delivered.
यदि विष्णुदूत नहीं आते थे और यमदूतों के साथ भागवतम की चर्चा और विचार विमर्श नहीं करते थे, तर्कबाजी नहीं करते थे, तो अजामिल का उद्धार होता ही नहीं था।
So the important thing about this point is that we should never take the Vaishnavas for granted.
तो महत्व की बात इसमें ये है कि हमें वैष्णव को कभी भी हल्के में नहीं लेना चाहिए।
Deliverance just does not mean at the point of death.
और उद्धार का मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि मृत्यु के बाद होता है।
Someone who picks you up from the material cycle of birth and death, someone who helps you from ignorance to knowledge, that person is actually delivering you.
कोई ऐसा व्यक्ति जो आपको ये बहुत सागर से बाहर लेके जा रहा है या तो अज्ञान में से आपको अज्ञान से बाहर निकाल रहा है, उसको भी उद्धार करने वाला है।
That's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very nice statement that Srila Prabhupada makes. No one should minimize a Vaishnava.
इसलिए श्रीमद् भागवतम में प्रभुपाद जी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण वाक्य लिखते हैं कि किसी भी व्यक्ति को वैष्णव का जो महत्व है उसको कम भी नहीं करना चाहिए।
Don't take for granted the Vaishnavas who are with you.
वैष्णव ऐसे वैष्णव जो आपके आजू बाजू में
Because with their transcendental knowledge and practice, they actually deliver us from fear, from anxiety, from lust, from anger, and from greed.
क्योंकि उनके जो दिव्य ज्ञान है हमारे पास, उनके माध्यम से हमारा जो भी वृत्ति है उन सबको नष्ट करते हैं।
Another way that we are delivered from this material cycle of birth and death is actually by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
दूसरी बात जो हम देखें कि हमारा उद्धार दूसरी और कौन सी चीज से होता है वो है भगवान का पवित्र नाम।
The word mantra is very important.
मंत्र शब्द बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है।
Man means the mind,
मन का मतलब होता है मन
and tra means to deliver.
और त्र का मतलब होता है जो हमें तारना।
Therefore, just by chanting Krishna's names, our minds can be delivered.
इसलिए केवल भगवान का नाम लेने मात्र से हमारा मन उद्धार होता है।
So, actually, if any Vaishnava is chanting Krishna's names, speaking about Krishna and discussing about Krishna, and if we are in the association of such Vaishnavas, we can also be delivered.
इसलिए यदि हमारा आगे में हमारे बाजू में ऐसे जो वैष्णव हैं जो भगवान का नाम लेते हैं, भगवान के बारे में बोलते हैं, उनके बारे में सुनते हैं, तो ऐसे वैष्णव के संग के कारण हमारा भी कल्याण होगा।
So in this verse, very nicely it is stated that actually Ajamil The word here, which is very useful, is Vinir Muktaha Gata Bihi. Actually, it is stated here that Ajamil was freed from the noose, the rope that was holding him by the Yamadutas. He became free of it. But actually, the rope represented fear. And so when the Yamadutas were put back and pushed back by the great arguments of the Vishnudutas, not only did they release him from the ropes, but the arguments of the Vishnudutas released him from fear.
तो जब उन्होंने देखा जब कि विष्णुदूतों ने ना मात्र वो रस्सी से उनका छुटकारा दिलवाया, अपितु जो उन्होंने तर्क वितर्क किया यमदूत के साथ, यमदूत पीछे हटे, तो उनके कारण भी वो भयमुक्त हो गए।
We must remember that actually the Yamadutas, they look very fearsome.
हमें ये समझना होगा कि यमदूत जो होते हैं वो बहुत ही भयानक हैं।
And in the earlier verses, we see that their description is very frightening actually.
और इसके पूर्व के श्लोकों में ये जो पढ़े, उनका जो वर्णन किया गया है बहुत ही विचित्र और भयानक किया गया है।
People think that the Yamadutas are imaginary.
लोगों को तो ऐसा ही लगेगा कि ये यमदूत जो है इतने काल्पनिक पात्र हैं।
But very few, like Ajamil, will live to tell you that they are real.
लेकिन अजमेर के जैसे कुछ चंद लोग होंगे जो आपको कहेंगे कि नहीं है।
Others who have seen them, they can't tell you that.
दूसरे लोग जो उनको देख लिए हैं वो आपको बता नहीं पाएंगे।
Because after that they die.
क्योंकि वो देख लेने के बाद वो उनके मर जाते हैं।
Right? So they cannot come back and tell you this is how Yamadutas look like.
इसलिए वो वापस नहीं आ सकते आपको बताने के लिए कि यमदूत ऐसे दिखते हैं।
But if you have visited your relatives or loved ones in the hospital, for example,
लेकिन उदाहरणार्थ यदि आपने आपके कोई मित्र या सगे को हॉस्पिटल में देखा हो,
sometimes when they are old, sometimes when they are about to die, they already start seeing the Yamadutas.
कभी-कभी यदि बुजुर्ग होते हैं और बीमार होते हैं और मरणासन्न होते हैं तब उनको यमदूत दिखते हैं।
Many years ago, I used to go to the hospice in Singapore.
और सिंगापुर में काफी सालों पहले मैं हॉस्पिटल में अस्पताल में जाया।
So you know, the hospice is a place where people are terminally ill.
हॉस्पिस ऐसा स्थान है कि जहाँ कायम स्वरूपी लोग बीमार हैं
Maybe 2-3 weeks, that's all they have.
और उनके पास केवल चंद 2-3 सप्ताह ही बचे हैं।
So we will just go, we will chant, we will pray, and sometimes we will give them some prasad.
तो हम उधर जाते थे, कीर्तन करते थे और प्रसाद देते थे और चले जाते थे।
Many of these people don't have families,
और उनके काफी लोगों के वैसे परिवार होते थे,
but they are fearful of dying alone.
लेकिन वे अकेले मरने के लिए भयभीत होते हैं।
So what happens is, we are with them for 1-2 weeks, like 1-2 days in a week, we just stay with them for a few hours.
तो होता क्या था कि एक सप्ताह या 2 सप्ताह हम उनके साथ प्रतिदिन 1 या 2 घंटा उनके साथ निवास करते थे।
And from my experience, almost every one of them gave descriptions of Yamadutas before they left the world.
और मेरे मत अनुसार जो भी मरणासन्न थे वो सब ने यमदूत के दर्शन कर लिए।
Because they would tell me, see, they are standing by the window, they are crawling on the wall, they are on the ceiling.
क्योंकि वो बोलते थे कि देखो देखो ये आ रहे हैं, छत पे चल रहे हैं और ये चिल्ला रहे हैं।
Describe the Yamadutas exactly as Ajamil would describe Yamadutas in the 6th canto.
वे यमदूतों का वर्णन उसी प्रकार कर रहे थे जिस प्रकार अजामिल ने किया हुआ है भागवतम के छठे संस्करण।
They would have sharp teeth, very red eyes,
उनके बहुत ही तीक्ष्ण दांत हैं और लाल लाल आंखें हैं उनकी।
and 1 or 2 persons even described them having ropes.
और 1 या 2 आदमी ने तो ऐसा भी वर्णन किया कि उनके हाथ में रस्सी भी थी।
So please don't think that Bhagavatam is imagining these things.
तो कृपा करके कभी भी ऐसा मत मान लीजिए कि श्रीमद् भागवतम के लोग काल्पनिक हैं।
They are actually present.
ये वास्तविक में सत्य है।
So you can imagine the fear that Ajamil was feeling when he saw these Yamadutas.
तो आप अनुमान लगा सकते हैं कि अजामिल को जब ये यमदूत दिखे तो वो भयभीत हो गए।
But the beauty is, because Ajamil chanted Narayana, he became free of fear.
किंतु इसका सौंदर्य ये है कि जैसे ही अजामिल ने नारायण का नाम लिया वो तुरंत ही भयमुक्त हो गए।
And when he became free of fear, then if you read the purport carefully, he came to his senses.
तात्पर्य में हम आगे बढ़े तो उसमें दिखाई देता है कि जैसे वो भयमुक्त हुआ भगवान का नाम लेकर के तो वो तुरंत ही
now free of fear, came to his senses.
वो अपने होश में आ गया।
So therefore, fear has a part to play in this material world.
तो भय को भी एक क्या कहते हैं, एक
Because Maharaj always told us that when material existence, when we feel fear of any kind, that is the time actually when we will remember Krishna.
महाराज कहते थे जब भी हम ये भौतिकता से भौतिक जगत से हम डरेंगे तो तभी हम अच्छी तरह से भक्ति में जुड़ पाएंगे।
But we will not be able to remember Krishna even if we are fearful, if we don't have faith in Krishna.
और हम कृष्ण का स्मरण तब नहीं कर पाएंगे जब हम भले ही भयभीत हो भौतिक जगत से, लेकिन कृष्ण पे श्रद्धा तब हम कृष्ण का स्मरण नहीं कर पाएंगे।
In the churning of the milk ocean, when the Devatas and the demons were carrying Mount Mandara became so heavy that it crushed them.
तो समुद्र मंथन की लीला में जब देवता और दानव मंदर पर्वत को उठा करके लेके जा रहे थे तो मंदर पर्वत का वजन इतना ज्यादा हो गया कि वे उसके द्वारा कुचले दिए गए।
At that point when they were being crushed, the Devatas shouted in fear, but they chanted Krishna's names.
तो जब वे कुचले जा रहे थे, उसके वजन से दबे जा रहे थे पर्वत के, तब देवताओं ने पुकार की और उन्होंने कृष्ण को पुकारा।
But the demons did not chant anybody's names.
लेकिन असुरों ने किसी का भी नाम नहीं लिया।
They just made noises, that kind of thing, but nothing else. But because the Devatas chanted Krishna's names, Krishna came in the form of Vishnu on Garuda. and Garuda lifted Mandara hill like someone would lift a feather.
जैसे ही देवताओं ने कृष्ण को पुकारा, कृष्ण गरुड़ पर विराजमान होकर के प्रकट हो गए और गरुड़ ने अपने हाथों से पर्वत को उठा लिया जैसे मानो वो एक अपने पंख को उठा।
And in that way, the Devatas were saved. But because they chanted Krishna's names, the demons were also saved.
और इस प्रकार देवता बच जाते हैं और क्योंकि देवताओं ने भगवान का नाम लिया तो उनके कारण असुरों का भी रक्षा हो गया।
So, devotional service is so powerful that even if you are in the vicinity of a devotee, you can also be freed actually.
तो भक्ति में सेवा इतनी पावरफुल है, यदि आप खाली भक्त के साथ ही खड़े हैं तो भी आपको लाभ मिलेगा।
This is the greatness of devotees.
ये भक्तों की महानता होती है।
That's why this chapter says, Ajamil is delivered by Vishnu Dutas.
इसलिए ये अध्याय कहता है, इसका शीर्षक ये है कि विष्णु दूतों के द्वारा अजामिल का
Actually, Parikshit Maharaj in the first canto, he chants a beautiful prayer which makes us understand how devotees become free of fear.
परीक्षित महाराज बहुत सुंदर प्रार्थना गाते हैं जिसमें बताया जाता है कि किस प्रकार भक्त भयमुक्त हो जाए।
Tampo, I think it is 119, I can't remember the exact verse, but I think I'll chant the verse. Tammopayatam pratiyantu vipra. I think you can find it. It's tammo yapatam pratiyantu vipra. Is it 13, 14? 119? 15, not 13. Okay, 119, 15. 119, 15. If you can find it, we can chant it together. Tammopayatam pratiyantu vipra. Ganga cha devi drita chittamishe. Dvija prahishta kuhakas takshakova. Dashatvalam gayata Vishnu gataha. The translation is very beautiful. Parikshit Maharaj is chanting, O Brahmanas, just accept me as your completely surrendered soul.
परीक्षित महाराज प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं, हे ब्राह्मणों, कृपा करके मुझे आपके प्रति शरणागत आदि स्वीकार कीजिए।
And let Mother Ganges
और माता गंगा
who is also the representative of Krishna,
कि जो भगवान की प्रतिनिधि है
she should also accept me in that way.
वे भी उसी प्रकार से मुझे स्वीकार करें.
Why he's asking for the acceptance of the devotees? I'm asking the question. Why is Parikshit Maharaj asking for the acceptance of the devotees? Because he recognizes their importance. He's saying now in this verse, I have already surrendered at the lotus feet of the heart. Lotus feet of the Lord, sorry. And I've surrendered myself in my heart to Krishna. So actually, if we want to be free of fear, the first step is to surrender. The problem in material world is when we are fearful, we always try to materially solve problems. And then we forget to surrender. You see Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In the first chapter, all he was doing was actually trying to find material solutions to his problem. But up to that point, instead of becoming more peaceful, by the time he came to the start of the second chapter, he was very disturbed actually. It's only when he accepted that, Krishna, I am now fully surrendered at your lotus feet, and please instruct me, because I've lost my confidence and my composure, then only, because of his surrender, he became free of fear. So we can understand, as long as we are trying to materially resolve our problems, we will continue to remain in fear. But like Parikshit Maharaj, he accepted his situation. And because he accepted his situation, he became surrendered to Krishna. That's why Maharaj also told us that in acceptance of our situation, there is automatically surrender to Krishna. So we don't have to artificially surrender actually. But we must not become dissatisfied with our position and situation. So Yamadutas came and they caused great fear to Ajamil. And Ajamil tried to materially solve the problem. What was his material solution? Actually, his material solution was to shout for his son, because he didn't know who else to call, and he was the favorite. So that was his material solution. But in this case, Krishna trapped him. Because actually, he chanted Krishna's names. And in that way, all fear was going to be leaving him. Because Krishna's names attracted Vishnudutas. And the Vishnudutas came and they saved Ajamil from the clutches of the Yamadutas. So actually, who delivered Ajamil? The Acharyas say, actually, the Vishnudutas delivered Ajamil by actually coming to save him when he chanted the holy names of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord never claim credit for delivering someone. They will claim that the holy name of the Lord, which was chanted by Ajamil, that was what delivered Ajamil from Yamadutas. And the Supreme Lord will say that it was the Vishnudutas who delivered Ajamil. This competition between the Lord and the devotees is very pleasing actually. In material world, our competition is, I am better than you. No, I am better than you. That is our competition in the material world. But in the spiritual world, amongst the devotees and the Lord, the competition is, you are actually better than me. No, you are better than me. No, really, you are better than me. In Bhagavatam, in the third canto, I believe, there is a description of the kingdom of God. And there it is so nicely stated that amongst the inhabitants of Vaikuntha, the devotees there, they are only competing only on the basis of how they can. So their mood is, Prabhu, Mataji, you serve Krishna and I will serve you. And if a bird, they will feel this bird is singing better than them. And the cousin of fear, anxiety, is also completely absent. We should genuinely believe that every devotee has better capacity to serve than we do. And instead of envying the devotees, we should be happy for the devotees. There is no one way to serve Krishna. And there's no one person who is serving Krishna. Everyone can serve Krishna in so many different ways and be freed of fear. So that was why actually Ajamil was very pleased with the Vishnudutas. And this is the same feeling Parikshit Maharaj felt, even though he was faced with death and the curse of the snake bird who is going to kill him. In that same shloka that we chanted, Prabhu, below a little bit more in the translation, you will hear Parikshit Maharaj saying so nicely that now that I'm surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna, right? Now let the snake bird or whatever that is going to come that has been created by the Brahmana, let it come. Let it bite me at once. Why? It doesn't matter to him, because he only desired that he will continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu.
तो आज अभी जो हमने श्लोक पढ़ा परीक्षित महाराज का, उसमें भी बताते हैं कि मैंने अभी भगवान की शरण ले ली है, तो अभी मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं कि भले ही ये तक्षक सांप जो है, राम जो है मुझे आगे कस रहे और मुझे मार रहा है। क्यों ऐसा उन्होंने कहा? क्योंकि वे आश्वस्त थे, वो भगवान की भक्ति पर भक्तों के संग के कारण आश्वस्त थे।
Srila Prabhupada says in that purport a very important statement which helps us understand Ajamil's happiness and his feeling of being delivered. Prabhupada says in the purport that as soon as one is given up completely unto the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not at all afraid of death. But the second line is more important, because in the second line, Prabhupada says, this atmosphere created by the presence of the great devotees of the Lord on the bank of the Ganges and Maharaj's complete acceptance of the Lord's lotus feet was sufficient guarantee to the king for going back home to Godhead.
लेकिन दूसरी पंक्ति उससे भी ज्यादा महत्व की है। उसमें प्रभुपाद जी लिखते हैं कि ये वातावरण इनके द्वारा निर्माण किया गया था, भगवान के महान भक्तों के द्वारा जो गंगा तट पर बैठे थे, और महाराज परीक्षित के ये स्वीकार कर लेने के बाद कि वे भगवान के चरण कमलों का आश्रय होने के लिए पर्याप्त है, इन चीजों के कारण राजा का भगवत धाम जाना एकदम सुनिश्चित हो गया।
What a nice statement Prabhupada makes, that actually our duty as devotees is to create an atmosphere where devotees feel free from fear and anxiety.
कितना सुंदर वाक्य प्रभुपाद जी ने निर्माण किया है कि भक्त के नाते हमें भी ऐसे वातावरण का निर्माण करना चाहिए जिसमें लोग आकर के भयमुक्त हो जाए और शांति प्राप्त कर सकें।
See, all of you have been here so many days. You're traveling, especially our Singapore Yatra. You all must be tired. But then the temple and the atmosphere that we are in, it has created no fear, no anxiety. So be peaceful, even if we are tired.
तो देखिए, आप सभी कितने दिनों से मुसाफिरी कर रहे हैं, सफर कर रहे हैं, और खास करके सिंगापुर के वक्त भी सफर कर रहे हैं, तो आप सभी थके हैं। लेकिन ये हम जहाँ जहाँ भी जाएं, उधर मंदिर में या तो केंद्र में ऐसे वातावरण का निर्माण किया गया है, भले ही हम थके हैं, लेकिन हम भयमुक्त हैं और चिंतामुक्त हैं।
So two things we need to free ourselves from fear.
तो भय से मुक्त होने के लिए हमें दो तीन चीजों की आवश्यकता होती है।
One, according to the purport, we must accept the Lord's lotus feet.
प्रथम चीज है कि हमें भगवान के चरण कमलों का स्वीकार करना चाहिए।
Accepting his feet means accepting his instructions.
भगवान के चरण कमल का स्वीकार करना का मतलब ये होता है कि भगवान के उपदेशों को ग्रहण करना।
Accepting what he gives us.
भगवान ने जो हमें दिया है उसका भी स्वीकार करना।
Maharaj used to tell me, Devaki, whatever situation or place you are in, at this point of time, it is perfect for you.
महाराज मुझे कहते थे कि ये देवकी जो भी परिस्थिति में अभी आज के समय में तुम है, वो परिस्थिति तुम्हारे लिए एकदम योग्य है।
It may change 1 minute later.
वो परिस्थिति 1 मिनट के बाद शायद बदल जाएगी।
And when it changes, that change that happens 1 minute later is exactly meant for you.
और वो 1 मिनट के बाद भी जो परिस्थिति बदल जाएगी, वो परिस्थिति भी तुम्हारे लिए योग्य है।
And then day after it may change again.
और एक दिन के बाद दूसरे दिन भी वो शायद तो आप भ्रमित मत होइए, विचलित मत होइए, ऐसा मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है, वो व्यक्ति ऐसा, वो स्त्री ऐसी क्यों है, ऐसा मत सोचिए।
Instead, accept what is happening
उसकी बजाय जो भी हो रहा है उसका स्वीकार करना सीखिए
and go on with your devotional service.
और अपने भक्ति में सेवा को जारी रखें।
Otherwise, we will be dragged down.
अन्यथा हम शिकंजे में फंस जाएंगे।
Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days. He did not have time to think why this happened, how could this have happened, Krishna let me down, he saved me when I was young, why does he put me in this situation, this is not fair, I've done so much for him, is this how he treats his devotees? It could have taken 7 days for him to think about these things.
परीक्षित महाराज के पास केवल 7 दिन थे और उनके पास समय नहीं था कि वो सोचे कि ऐसा मेरे साथ क्यों हुआ, क्यों मुझे ब्राह्मण ने श्राप दिया, जब मैं छोटा था, बच्चा था, घर में था तो भगवान ने मुझे बचा लिया था, अब क्यों नहीं आए, क्यों मेरी रक्षा नहीं कर रहे, मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों हुआ, ये सोचते थे। तो 7 दिन ये सोचते थे तो भी कम पड़ते थे।
Maharaj used to tell us, no, he used to scold us, why so much moaning and groaning about your situation?
महाराज उनको कहते थे, डांटते थे कि क्यों ऐसे आप अपनी परिस्थितियों को लेकर के अपना चेहरा लटका के बैठे।
By the time you finish your moaning and groaning, time has passed and you are going to meet Yamaraj.
जब तक मुंह लटका के फिरोगे तब तक तो आपका समय भी बीत चुका होगा।
Accept it and move on with your devotional service.
जो भी परिस्थिति है उसका अंगीकार कर लीजिए, स्वीकार कर लीजिए और भक्ति में सेवा जारी रखिए।
This is what Parikshit Maharaj did.
यही ऐसा ही परीक्षित महाराज ने भी किया।
And now Ajamil is going to do the same thing.
और अजामिल भी ऐसा ही करने जाने वाला है।
He is going to repent in his heart.
वो अपने हृदय में भगवान की अग्नि को जलाने वाला है।
And he is going to be happy doing the devotional service.
और भक्ति में सेवा करते करते वो बहुत ही प्रसन्नता का अनुभव करने वाला है।
What is the second thing that will free us from fear?
दूसरी चीज कौन है, क्या है जो हमें भयमुक्त करती है?
Creating an atmosphere of devotional service.
भक्ति में सेवा का वातावरण का निर्माण करना।
And this is what we are doing in Radha Nila Madhav Dham.
और यही ऐसा ही कुछ हम राधा रानी माधव धाम में कर रहे हैं।
And this is what we are doing in Somnath,
और ऐसा ही कुछ हम सोमनाथ में भी कर रहे हैं।
in Porbandar,
पोरबंदर में भी कर रहे हैं।
and all the other towns and villages.
और अलग-अलग विविध नगर और ग्राम में कर रहे हैं।
And this is what you must do in your houses.
और ऐसा ही कुछ आपको आपके घर में भी करना चाहिए।
And this is what you must do in your heart.
और ऐसा ही कुछ आपको आपके हृदय में भी करना चाहिए।
And therefore, in the last line of the purport, Prabhupada writes very nicely,
इसलिए एकदम अंतिम पंक्ति में प्रभुपाद जी लिखते हैं,
he thus became absolutely free from all fear of death.
कि वे यानी कि परीक्षित महाराज वास्तविकता में और पूरी तरह से सब प्रकार के भय से मुक्त हो गए।
See, no one is free of fear in this world.
हम देख सकते हैं कि ये दुनिया में, ये जगत में कोई भी व्यक्ति भयमुक्त नहीं है।
In the purport to the 3rd canto, 17th chapter, 1st verse or 2nd verse,
तीसरे स्कंद के 17वें अध्याय के पहले या दूसरे श्लोक के तात्पर्य में
Prabhupada writes a very important point.
प्रभुपाद जी बहुत सुंदर हमें कहते हैं,
He says that even the devatas are fearful.
वे कहते हैं कि देवता भी भयभीत होते हैं।
And he says that fear is not just distinct to this world.
और भय इस जगत से दूर नहीं हो सकता।
As long as you have taken birth, then in all the 3 worlds, fear is present.
जब हमने इस भौतिक जगत में जन्म ले लिया है तो तीनों लोकों में हर जगह भय विद्यमान है।
But the way to counteract fear is to see the hand of Krishna.
किंतु इस भय से मुक्त होने का या उसका हल निकालने का एक ही उपाय है, वो है कृष्ण का हाथ में हर जगह।
And to understand that nothing belongs to us.
और ये समझ लेना कि हमारा इस जगत में कुछ भी है नहीं।
The devatas in 17th chapter of the 3rd canto, they were very fearful because Jai and Vijay were falling and they were going to become Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
तीसरे स्कंद के ये 17वें अध्याय में देवताओं का वर्णन आता है, तो उसमें बताया जाता है कि देवता अत्यंत भयभीत थे क्योंकि जय और विजय जो है वे आसमान से गिर रहे थे।
But what were they actually fearful of is very important.
किंतु वे किस चीज को लेकर के इतने भयभीत हुए थे?
They were fearful that Jai and Vijay, as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, will take over Swargaloka.
वे इस चीज से भयभीत हुए थे कि जय विजय हिरण्याक्ष और हिरण्यकशिपु के रूप में आकर के उनकी जो पद है, उनका जो साम्राज्य है, उसको हड़प लेगा।
Just like Indra was anxious and fearful that Vritrasur would take over Swargaloka.
जिस प्रकार से इंद्र को एक बार भय हुआ था कि वृत्रासुर उसका राज्य हड़प लेगा,
Just like Sukracharya was fearful that Bali Maharaj was going to give away Swargaloka to Vamandev.
जिस प्रकार शुक्राचार्य भयभीत हो गए थे कि बलि महाराज भी पूरा स्वर्गलोक वामन भगवान को प्रदान कर देंगे।
Just like Indra was fearful that the residents of Vrindavan were no longer going to glorify him and instead glorify Govardhan.
तो जिस प्रकार इंद्र भयभीत हो गए थे गोवर्धन लीला में जब सभी लोग सभी वृंदावनवासी इंद्र की गुणगान ना करके गोवर्धन का गुणगान करने लगे।
In all these different episodes, do you see one commonality?
इन सभी अलग-अलग प्रसंगों में एक समान कोई पदार्थ आपको दिखता है, तत्व दिखता है क्या?
We fear because we think we will lose something that actually belongs to us, when actually it does not.
हम इसलिए भयभीत होते हैं क्योंकि हम ऐसी धारणा लगा करके बैठे होते हैं कि ये चीज या फिर ये पद या ये कोई चीजें ये मेरी है, लेकिन वो वास्तविकता में मेरी नहीं होती।
Sometimes devotees even become fearful and anxious that they will lose their service.
कभी-कभी भक्त भी भयभीत हो जाते हैं कि वर्ष हो जाएगी।
But Maharaj told us there is no end to service for Krishna.
किंतु महाराज कहते हैं कि सेवा का कोई अंत ही नहीं होता है।
And no one can stop you from chanting the holy names of the Lord or studying Srila Prabhupada's books, which is the greatest service.
कोई भी आपको रोक नहीं सकता ब्रह्मा जी का पुस्तकों का अध्ययन करने के लिए और भगवान का नाम लेने के लिए। सबसे बड़ी सेवा यही है।
Who stops you from coming and sitting down before Krishna and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the class?
क्लास में आकर के भगवान के सामने बैठ करके श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास का श्रवण करने के लिए आपको कौन रोक सकता है?
In fact, Maharaj said in class the service is opposite.
महाराज क्लास के अंदर जो सेवा होती है वो अलग होती है, विरुद्ध होती है।
You have to take the rope of the Yamadutas and drag people to Bhagavatam class.
आपको यमदूत के रस्सियों को लेकर के लोगों के गले में डालना पड़ता है ताकि वे भागवतम में आए।
But it's actually service.
लेकिन ये भी तो एक सेवा है।
So, we should never be fearful when we take up devotional service.
जब हम भक्ति में सेवा का अंगीकार करते हैं तब हमें कभी भी भयभीत नहीं होना चाहिए।
And like I've been saying since we started this yatra, and since we spoke on the disappearance of Krishna in the Yadu dynasty, detachment is an essential ingredient in devotional service.
तो जब से मैंने ये यात्रा की शुरुआत की है, तब से लेकर के हमने एक चीज का वर्णन किया है, बार-बार जिक्र किया है कि वैराग्य जो है, विरक्ति जो है, वो भी हमें भक्ति में सेवा में बहुत ही उपयोगी चीज है।
And once we can understand detachment, then the opulence of renunciation that Krishna displays, it becomes available for us.
इस प्रकार जब हम भक्ति में विचार करते हैं, तब जो कृष्ण का जो ऐश्वर्य है त्याग का, वो हमारे लिए उपलब्ध हो जाता है।
So therefore, please remember, Ajamil was freed from fear because of the sadhu sangha of the Vishnu Dutas.
तो आप हमेशा स्मरण रखें कि अजामिल जो है वो बेमुक्त हुआ, क्यों? क्योंकि विष्णु दूतों का बहुत ही बढ़िया उनको संग मिला।
He was going to die anyway.
कैसे वैसे करके भी वो तो मरने ही वाला था।
And actually he will die also eventually.
हाँ, मैं तो मरने ही वाला था।
And everybody has to die.
और हम सबको एक बार तो मरना ही है।
Our fear should be that we are not remembering Krishna.
हमारा भय तो ये होना चाहिए कि हम शायद कृष्ण का स्मरण नहीं कर पाए तो क्या होगा?
Maharaj told us that is good fear to have,
ऐसा भय होना ये अच्छी बात है, ऐसा महाराज कहते हैं।
because that will wake us up.
वो हमें जगा देता है।
Like now, Vishnu Dutas had woken up Ajamil.
जिसी प्रकार आज विष्णु दूतों ने अजामिल को जगा दिया।
In the same way, even fear in this world can be used for Krishna consciousness.
इसी प्रकार से भय का भी इस्तेमाल हम कृष्ण भक्ति में भावना में कर सकते हैं।
Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj ki, Ananta Kodi Vaishnavrinda ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Are there any comments, realizations? Swami Prakash Prabhu, please. Can we have the mic, Prabhu? Oh, short. Prabhu, can you come here? Mic is a bit short. Sorry. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Yes. Free will.
We understand free will versus everything is under the control of Krishna, like not a blade of grass moves.
Yes.
Not the will of Krishna.
Yes.
So this was interesting. But it also helped me contemplate on this point. So it will help if you clarify. How do we understand if there is something, is there something called free will?
Yeah, this is a very nice point.
In connection with Parikshit Maharaj,
Yes.
we accept it.
Yes.
But for people like ordinary people like us who are not in that position,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is a nice point. Is there the concept of free will? Does it exist? And in the context of Ajamil, for example, how do we accept? He's very exalted, but how do we accept such a situation? And how the concept of free will impacts this actually? From my understanding, Prabhupada many times in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, he tells us one thing very clearly, that we all have minute independence. So we have minute independence. There is independence. We are not completely under the control of Krishna, but we have free will. It is very minute, Prabhu. That means whatever free will that we can actually exert, it will always be against the forces of our time and activity in this world. Out of the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita, the 2 things Maharaj said that will impact our free will is actually time and activity, right? Kala and karma. Why? Because this karma that we have, which our activities that we are performing now, they are bound by our previous activities. So if we have done activities before, which now we regret, we cannot escape from the consequences of that activities because of the law of karma. And so we have done activities in previous births that have resulted in effects of the activities coming in this birth, for example. And they bind us in one sense, Prabhu, because we cannot move away from what we have been implicated before. But what happens is we are bewildered by why this is happening to us now. And we think this is Daivena Netrena, that it is Krishna's hand. And Krishna wants us to suffer. But Maharaj always gave us the perspective that actually Krishna doesn't want us to suffer. Whatever we are suffering is because of our previous activities, which we exercised based on our minute will, maybe one life ago, maybe 10 years ago. Maharaj gave a humorous example. You end up liking a girl and you get married to her. At that time, you exercise your free will. And then after that, 10 years later, you are regretting like anything. Why did I get married to her? Why this inexplicable situation must happen to me? But you have forgotten 10 years ago, you said this is the most wonderful thing to happen to me. So actually, it was your free will that got you into this. But now your free will has brought you into an inexplicable situation that you cannot escape from. And therefore, you are bound by your previous activities. That's why in Bhagavatam, if you search the word implicated, there are thousands of hits on the word implicated. And every time the word implicated comes, it has nothing to do with Krishna in that sense. We are implicated by our previous fruitive activities. So actually free will is there. But Maharaj told us, because free will has a way of accumulating over lives, actually the effect of free will is not minute. The effect of free will is very devastating actually, because it spans across lives and lives and lives. And you add on to that is the fact that the mind, right, and the intelligence and the false ego, they are wrapped up in the subtle body, makes us so much. That is why desire is the same word as independence. Ichcha. Whatever we desire will create another body for implication. And therefore, we must learn to channel our desires to serve Krishna. Only when we have a desire to serve Krishna can the minute independence be actually exercised properly. Otherwise, it will go rogue and it will give us so much trouble. So, how does a devotee then view all of this? Many of the devotees in Bhagavatam were actually put in difficult situations But Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that they were put into difficult situations by the will of Krishna, not by their implicatory actions, because they are examples for us. If they were not put in difficulty and Bhagavatam was full of perfect devotees, we will never be able to connect to Bhagavatam, because we will think, yeah, of course they're all perfect, that's why they did very well. But in Bhagavatam, there appears to be so many imperfections because we can learn from them. So Parikshit Maharaj was not implicated, but then he is a good lesson for us, because how we behave can actually, because we are walking around thinking, I'm giving gyan and I'm teaching you, I'm delivering you, but we are hurting everyone, and therefore we are implicated actually. We are implicated. So then how to come out of this implication? This is where the cross-section between seeing the hand of Krishna and our karmas will come. When a devotee understands that actually I am implicated because of my previous actions, the devotee accepts it as this is exactly fair and just, and this is Krishna's hand. This is the first prayer of the unborn child, that completely befitting my previous activities and reactions. So in that moment, the child sees the hand of Krishna, even while the child accepts its mistakes. And it sees the fact that it can accept its mistakes now as the hand of Krishna. That Krishna is giving me this knowledge to understand why I am in this situation. And Maharaj told us that no matter what you have done previously, and now you are stuck with a wife or a husband or a child or a situation, this is also sanctioned by Krishna. It may not be the will of Krishna because you wanted all this, but he sanctioned it. He allowed you to go. He didn't stop you. So therefore, in one way, you must also surrender to him because he has sanctioned it. So if you put all this together, I think it becomes easier for us to see Krishna's hand. But it's a very good question. And it's a difficult thing for us to understand. Is it helpful? Prabhu, is it helpful? Huh? Yeah. Yes, Pranendu Prabhu. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. This is a very nice point Pranendu Prabhu is bringing up also. Very often fear is supposed to transform our consciousness. Like Ajamil was fearful Vishnudutas of Yamadutas, and then the Vishnudutas came and he was saved. Now, many of us in his position, after we were saved, we may think, oh, I still have some time. Let me go back to my old days. Maybe 1 time, 2 time, 3 time. I have 10 years, right? Maybe 1 year I have. But we go back to our old ways. How do we stop that actually? I think the only back to our old ways. How do we stop that actually? I think the only way to stop that, Prabhu, is the second point in the purport that we just read just now. That, Prabhu, is the second point in the purport that we just read just now. The atmospheric presence of the devotees. The devotees will actually, that sadhu sangha that we get will help us to reduce the likelihood of going back to our old ways like the elephant's bath. That's why Prabhupada created this society, so that in the off chance that we want to go back and lack the transformation to continue, at least the sadhu sangha will give us the determination and the perseverance to be able to maintain that transformation. That determination and perseverance sometimes cannot come from just ourselves, but it can come from the association of devotees, the association of reading Srila Prabhupada's books, and the association of taking darshan and performing service. That will actually help us. That's why in that purport, actually Prabhupada gives these two side by side. One of it is, of course, acceptance of Krishna. That is Daiva Netrena that Swayam Prakash Prabhu brought up. The atmospheric presence of the devotees. Could have sat down with Shukadev Goswami alone to hear Bhagavatam, and he would have been delivered. But by having all the sadhu sangha of the devotees, it ensured that he would be delivered actually. It ensured. Is that all right, Prabhu? It's a very nice point. Thank you very much. Yes, Mahesh Prabhu, one more.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Question, I think, day-to-day life, when we go to offices and all, most of the time, we have fear of, performing the right thing, because we might have a reputation of those first. If we don't do this thing right for our clients or anything, our organization's reputation or our own reputation might get lost. So then it propels us in the right direction to do better. So is that a fear? Is that or is it something else?
Prabhu, yeah. See, you will realize, or if we don't perform, or something will happen and the clients will not be in a better position for a promotion, right? So how do we utilize that from a Krishna point of view? That's the key here. The key there is to put together two we have to use whenever we are working. Therefore, our employer is Krishna, not the company. And therefore, we want to work the best for Krishna. When you think of Krishna as your employer, your anxiety level do the best for Krishna. And Krishna is the best employer in the world. He'll never sack you. He'll never fire you. He's always taking care of you. So I find when devotees have this mood, they will perform their job very well, but they always know that the boss is Krishna. They take care of their clients very well because it's part of their duty. But they are not doing it because they are anxious that their clients will get angry with them. They are doing it so well because they are anxious to please Krishna. That anxiety, that fear, as Punendu Prabhu brought up, is good fear. We must have some fear. Sometimes in the Bhakti movement, we are talking about loving Krishna all the time. But with all that, sometimes it is very sentimental. One day we'll wake up, I'm in love with Krishna. Next day, not so much. But it's good to have a bit of fear that if I don't do something nicely, Krishna will not be pleased. Or the acharyas will not be pleased. Or I will not please my spiritual master. That fear for a neophyte is very helpful. So fear by itself is not the problem. But fear for the service of the service. Is that helpful, Prabhu? So that's the first concept is what we have discussed. And that is that every time we work, we should understand that whatever that we are doing is sanctioned by Krishna. But the results are not ours to take. That is also from Bhagavad Gita. We are entitled to the work, but we are not entitled to the results of the work. And therefore, we become peaceful because we know, and you know now, that results are never in our hands. If results were to be in our hands, then everything we want to do will be perfect. If Kalchakra Prabhu and I had it our way, and if results were in our hands, we would have 1,000 Vyasa Puja offerings. We can only beg, but the results are in your hands. Whether you want to send in or not, we can't put a gun to your head. We have to become detached. We have to learn the value of renunciation. And after a while, we must just say, never mind, this is the best we can do, and now we leave it to Krishna and we leave it to Maharaj. That is how we are. So many times I've seen Vaishnava Seva Prabhu just running after the devotees, expanding this in so many places in Gujarat. So many challenges he has had. Sometimes the land is available, sometimes devotees are not available, manpower is not available. But ultimately, he's very peaceful because action is there. He's doing his best. He's standing upside down. He's trying his best. But results, he's leaving it up to Krishna. And the moment we do that, we can walk away very peaceful. That is actually sannyas, Prabhu, even amidst intense activity. And that brings us back to the principle of detachment and renunciation. Is that helpful, Mahesh Prabhu? It's a very nice point. Thank you, Prabhu. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudev ki, Thai Gaura Premanande. Vaishnava Seva Prabhu, what is the plan now?